She put the lives of our law enforcement officers at risk. She put the lives of citizens at risk. A street chase, which is absurd that had to happen. But yes, she put a lot of people in danger. That judge did it. So did the other judge. Judge Cano is charged with. They were allegedly giving him assault rifles, AK-47s, AR-15s, with a suppressor, a known TDA member, letting him go to a shooting range to refine and perfect his shooting skills. What's happened to our judiciary is beyond me.
That's a good question. An extraordinary account from Attorney General Pam Bondi about the arrest over the last 2 days of two judges, a Wisconsin judge and a New Mexico judge, and his wife. Both judges have been charged with obstruction of justice for harboring and helping illegal migrant suspects escape from federal ICE agents. Joining us now, the former U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr. I tell you, sir, I've never seen anything like it. I'm not a legal eagle like you are, but have you? And what do you make of it?
Well, actually, David, this has been going on a long time. One of the ways we identify these illegal aliens is when they're picked up by local police for violating the law there. Could be domestic violence, petty theft, whatever. They're brought into state court. Now, in the old days, before the sanctuary cities movement got going, they'd be turned over to federal officials. But since the sanctuary cities took effect, we've had local judges let these people go and sneak them out the back door so that ICE agents can't pick them up. And in fact, back in September 2019, in the first term, we charged a judge in Massachusetts for a very similar action to what this Milwaukee judge
But
did.
it's the response to this, the actual arrest of these. And in the case of that judge who spirited her, the perp that was on the stand out the back door, I mean, she actually had to be chased down and was perp walked. And the judge and his wife went through a similar escapade with federal agents. I mean, it does seem like it's reached a critical point here. And I just wonder what's going to happen next. I mean, are we going to see this bounced up somehow eventually to the Supreme Court?
Yeah, I mean, I doubt it'll get to the Supreme Court because I think the law is so clear. The states argue, the sanctuary states argue, they don't have to affirmatively assist us, the feds, in getting hold of these illegal aliens. But this isn't a question of assisting. This is actually interfering with, of harboring, of getting in the way. And so I don't think there's any question about this, and I think it's time for zero tolerance and getting back to basics, which are that judges and state officials are still citizens, they're subject to the federal law, and they cannot interfere in or impede the federal function. So I'm 100% in agreement with what's done.
Well, of course, you know how the media is going to play it, and of course the Democrats already have begun. The protests have begun, suggesting that this is Trump again being the imperial president who's a dictator now and ignoring the courts. Do you think any courts will pick up on that? Any courts to which these cases might be appealed?
Yeah, I mean, some state courts, there's some very liberal state courts, they may try to go down that path, but at the end of the day, they'll be slapped down because these judges do not have the right to interfere with the federal government performing its function. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned sanctuary cities, and we now have this, I guess it's a continuation. I don't know if you would. I would call it a continuation of lawfare how do you put it now? Lawfare as opposed to warfare. But this is lawfare of a different sort, where these local judges will take executive orders or things that the president have done and suggest that they have the power to stop them dead cold. And one is blocking his rule to defund sanctuary cities. Where do you think that's going?
Well, hopefully that'll be the Supreme Court will deal with these nationwide injunctions and these broad early orders. Look, there's some issues that are legitimate to resolve in court. You know, how much power does the president have to fire people? How far down does that go? And so forth. Fine. Litigate those in courts. But what these judges are doing is trying to stop the thing nationwide up front before that litigation reaches its finality. And that's what is objectionable.
Now, this may seem like a switch to small potatoes compared to what we've been talking about, but U.S. versus Google is a very important case, and it's one that I believe your investigation, when you were Attorney General, brought to the case level. You launched the investigation when you were Attorney General. Google was found guilty of monopoly practices. Now there's a new proceeding over the appropriate remedy in the case. Why is this so important?
Well, it's one of the biggest monopolies in our history. You know, its market cap right now is about $2 trillion. And as you said, we brought the case in the first Trump administration. The Biden administration prosecuted the case. And now Trump 2 is and to victory. So they were found to be monopoly and engaged in these unlawful practices and built up their wealth and their size and snuffed out competition. And now this administration, Trump 2, is imposing and seeking to impose through a trial some really excellent remedies to address this. They're very sensible, and I think they deserve broad public support.
Now, a lot of us free marketeers would say, you know, why do the courts have to get involved in something? Can't the market work this out? I mean, I know that Google has this extraordinary position with regard to its search engine, but you know, you may find within the next year or so that Elon Musk comes up with a terrific alternative to Google's search mechanism, an X search, if you will. I mean, why can't the market work this out quickly?
Well, because the antitrust is really meant to intervene when business practices, unlawful practices, stop a free market from operating. We're for a free market, and sometimes we don't want the government to go in, gratuitously and upset competition. But competition can be killed by unlawful practices by companies, and when that happens, it's important to step in and deal with it, because all too often that distorts the market, it hurts consumers, it snuffs out competition, and ultimately it's competition that is good for American consumers.
Well, I'll bet you a sawbuck that Elon Musk is going to come up with a competitor that could give Google a run for its money. I'm just saying. It is a bipartisan agreement with you, by the way, that both Democrats and Republicans, one of the few things in the universe that the two parties agree on is this case. Attorney General, wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
Good to see you, David.
Really appreciate it.